First graders, I'm going to read another George and Martha book today. This is George and Martha, One Fine Day by James Marshall. And if you notice, look at George. He's got his golden tooth now. And this one is all about playing tricks on your friends. So it's pretty funny. George and Martha, One Fine Day. 5 stories about 2 best friends. Story number 1, The Tightrope. One morning, when George looked out his window, he could scarcely believe his eyes. Martha was walking a tightrope. "My stars!" cried George. "I could never do that." "Why not?" said Martha. "It's tons of fun."
"But it's so high up,"
said George. "Yes," said Martha.
"And it's such a long way down,"
said George. "That's very true," said Martha.
"It would be quite a fall," said George.
"I see what you mean," said Martha. Suddenly, Martha felt uncomfortable. For some reason, she had lost all her confidence, and she began to wobble. Do you think maybe what George was saying to her made her nervous? I think so. George realized his mistake. His mistake was that he was not telling her she was doing a great job. Now he had to do some fast talking.
"Of course," he said, "anyone can see you love walking the tightrope."
"Oh, yes," said Martha.
"Certainly," said George, "and if you love what you do, you'll be very good at it, too."
Martha's confidence was restored. "Watch this," she said. Martha did some fancy footwork on her tightrope. So it was good that George encouraged her and said, "Good job," so that she didn't get nervous. Story number 2, The Diary. Diary is like a notebook that you write down like what happened that day, and sometimes you don't like other people to read it. If you write your feelings in there, you like to keep it secret. Whenever Martha sat down to write in her diary, George was always nearby. Think he's a little nosy? "Yes, George," said Martha.
"I was just on my way to the kitchen," said George.
Said Martha. Martha decided to finish writing outdoors. "How peculiar," she said to herself. "I can still smell George's cologne." Then Martha heard leaves rustling above her. Do you think George is still around? She smells his smell. "Aha!" she cried. "You were spying on me."
"I wanted to see what you were writing in your diary," said George.
"Then you should have asked my permission," said Martha.
"May I peek in your diary?"
asked George politely. What do you think she's going to say? "No," said Martha. Story number 3, The Icky Story. Looks like they're having something to eat, and it's never a good idea to tell an icky story when you're eating. At lunch, George started to tell an icky story. Martha strongly objected. "Please have some consideration," she said. But George told his icky story nevertheless.
"You're asking for it."
Oh, sorry, wrong voice. "You're asking for it," said Martha. When Martha finished her lunch, she told an icky story. It was so icky that George felt all queasy inside. Look, he turned green. He couldn't even eat his dessert.
"You're the champ," said George.
"Don't make me do it again," said Martha.
"I won't,"
said George. So he learned his lesson. Don't tell icky stories and make other people feel sick. Story number 4, The Big Scare. Remember I told you someone's going to play a trick on someone? Watch and see. Look, you can see that she has a stamp collection. She was sticking stamps in a book. "Boo!" cried George. "Have mercy!" screamed Martha. Martha and her stamp collection went flying.
"I'm sorry," said George. "I was feeling wicked."
"Well," said Martha, "now it's my turn."
"Go ahead," said George.
"Not right away," said Martha slyly. So she's going to play a trick on him, but she's not going to tell him when. Suddenly, George found it very difficult to concentrate on what he was doing.
"Any minute now, Martha's going to scare the pants off of me," he said to himself.
So he's just always nervous, eating his oatmeal.
"Maybe she's hiding someplace," he said.
George made sure that Martha wasn't hiding under the sink. He's so nervous, he's checking to see where she's hiding. During the day, George got more and more nervous.
"Any minute now," he said.
So he's taking a shower. He's waiting for her to be tricking him and surprising him, but it didn't happen. Martha was relaxing in her hammock. "I'm sorry I forgot to scare you," said Martha.
"That's all right," said George. "I wouldn't have worked anyway. I'm not easily frightened."
"I know," said Martha. Do you think that's true? Do you think she can't frighten him? There's still one story left. The last story, the amusement park. That's like Six Flags or Hershey Park. They're going to an amusement park. That evening, George and Martha went to the amusement park. They rode the Ferris wheel. They rode the roller coaster. Look how funny they look on the roller coaster. Oh, the pages are being sticky today. They rode the bumper cars. They were having a wonderful time. But in the tunnel of love, Martha sat very quiet. It was very dark in there. Suddenly Martha cried, "Boo! Have mercy!" screamed George. "I didn't forget after all," said Martha. "So I see," said George. And that is the end of the story, George and Martha, One Fine Day. They're just two really funny hippos. And I guess it says on here that they have a show. So I guess somewhere there's a George and Martha TV show. But I just love these books. So I hope you enjoyed. Have a great weekend.